the sweet and delicious taste of victory. Am I really surprised that, as I said, hey, this was a cliffhanger? We probably were supposed to be surprised and questioning about it since it was given literally on the last page of how is this possible? Not freaking out of being like, how is this possible? This is stupid. I can't even understand this right now. It's like, hey, you're gonna get an explanation in the next chapter. I feel like we should at least be ready and experienced enough, not just with Hero Machine, I mean manga cliffhangers in general, to be like, hey, the next chapter we're probably going to find out what goes on. But regardless of which, now we have not only that explanation of how it goes on, but how I imagined Wendy's initial kind of grasp on it. But there is more to it, which I thought was a very interesting development that we'll talk about. But also, my prediction on how exactly 5th Generation Dragon's Force and potentially on how 5th Generation Dragon's like magic works, which again, very pleased about because it is lining up with my whole kind of like what I can theorize and kind of see as 5th Generation Dragon's like magic based off of information we know. So essentially, Wendy, when her and Irene switched bodies, Irene's mind, kind of like soul mind, was inside of Wendy's body. So she had the brain that is inside Wendy's actual body with Irene's thoughts in it. So, how the brain works, it, takes in those thoughts and they are within her brain at some point. Now, Wendy is using the kind of like, she even says residual thoughts that are remained in her head. And she's like, I can't really use the full power. And for me, I can kind of see it more of just like, she's saying like she kind of like enchanted some of that power into her body, like a fragment of Irene's abilities from when she was in Irene's body, kind of like taking a little bit of it with her and kind of storing it up. But also in the kind of idea for me that she's harnessing more of the full potential that Wendy's body has. Because if you go back and look at the chapter when Irene was first inside of Wendy's body, not only did she have she had a much bigger grasp on Sky Dragon Slaying magic, but she even said that, like, the magic that Wendy's body had, like, it wasn't a drastic drop. It wasn't even close to what she thought it would be. She even says they've been reduced, but it's not even close to where she kind of see it, because Wendy did have, a lot of hidden potential. Talks about just the kind of, like, stored up power within the girl, and how she was actually pretty impressed with what she's capable of. Now, going off of that, now we have this current state. She is just kind of, unleashing damage upon Nebel, just, laying in attacks to him, throwing punches and slams. But at the same time, she's just like saying how, this is only potentially going to be able to use once. This is a power that I can use. I have a fragment of it. It's from the mother of all dragon slayers, which again is really cool. I actually really like that Irene is being played into this whole Dragon Slayer, Dragon God bout, because she is very important when you think about it in that aspect. She is the creator of Dragon Slayer magic. She is, as they say, mother of Dragon Slayers. And now she's, gonna actually have some form of representation of herself in being and kind of power in this whole battle. So here she is laying punches into Nebel. Nebel getting hit, taking damage, but afterwards, he seems to kind of get like a little delirious, a little crazy. You see kind of like the weird wavy parts of his eyes. And then he's back on the attack. Part of his ear starts to transform. He's gaining more horns. He's gaining spikes all over his body. And he is gaining a dragon-like body. As I theorized how 5th Generation Dragon Force will work. And just given off of the fact that, it's stated forbidden. Well, what forbidden is about it? It seems to make them become, the whole dragonification process, the dragonizing. Your body is temporarily being altered into a dragon state while using Dragon Force, because that's really what Dragon Force is. Dragon Force isn't just like, oh, you unlock a dragon slaying power. Oh, you just, you unlocked an extra ability. No, you are further pushing your body down the line of being in this transformation, because Slayer magic, as we know, alters the composition of your body to be like that of what your, the magic is themed on. Dragon slaying magic, you're altering your body to be a dragon. And with that, Dragon Force will temporarily push you further down the line of it, and at the same time, you're just gaining more of those abilities that you would have, once you get to that kind of state. That's why when we saw way back in the, the first time Natsu, had the ability to burn magic. It's something that he later gained, and he didn't have to be in Dragon Force, and it's not a Dragon Force only ability. It's an ability that he has, like as a Fire Dragon Slayer and just Fire Dragon magic in general, that he would eventually unlock, and then he did later. Now, with 5th generation Dragon Slaying, my prediction of how it works and how they're kind of, so powerful, and we don't know entirely how they're, are. We don't know how long they've existed because they've lived on an entirely separate continent. We don't know how far dragon slaying magic spread, but imagining that dragons were all over the world and they were driven to near extinction, I think it's safe to assume that dragon slaying magic would spread out just as much, regardless of it, having to actually do directly with the war between the dragons during the Dragon King Festival, or just learn it. But my hypothesis, essentially, of why 5th generation Dragon Slayers are so, powerful, is that they're directly intaking dragon flesh, and it's progressing them at a much faster rate. Because one thing about slaying magic, well, specifically dragon slaying magic, because we don't know the full extent of demon slaying. We only really know one type. Well, we know 2 people that were demon slayers, but really it was the same specific ones. Silver and Gray. God slaying is like the redheaded stepchild of Slayer magic, but dragon slaying magic slowly alters you and turns into said state. Even if your magic is, either temporarily knocked out or reduced to 0 in a way, similar to look at Acnologia. During, when Acnologia ended up grabbing onto Christina and he was affected by motion sickness, or when Face was going off and he didn't have any of his magic, he still stayed in his dragon form, because the difference between, just like a transformation spell, like, Mira Jane using transformation magic, turning into someone, is that you're kind of like altering your shape temporarily with magic, whereas dragon slaying magic permanently changes you. And though there is clearly a way for you to be able to gain a human form again, it's not your true form. It's more of just having, a shape-shifting power. It's kind of like, at that point, the dragon form is your real default form. Similar to if you're using, some form of magic in order to alter your shape, then, the cancellation would go towards you and turn you back into your normal self. Like, oh, Mira Jane's a fish, something happens, no magic, turns back into Mira. Acnology just stayed as himself. There's the potential that maybe they could stay inside of those shift states, because we already know from even as far back as Edelus that dragon slaying is different than normal magic, even if it is powered by magic, but also from dragons that their powers aren't directly stemmed from magic. Even with Face going off, they were just fine. They're still able to use their breath attacks and whatnot. Whereas they can still, as we saw with Zirconis, use magic on top of their own abilities. Similar to how demons can, they have curses, but some of them can also use magic. Now, well, the Aetherius, obviously, talking about the Aetherius and not just like the Galuna Island demons. But now you have the much further progressed dragon form of Nebel. He kind of starts out just looking like I want to say he looked more like some half Hulk, half Green Goblin looking kind of guy, some form of big monster. I'm thinking maybe kind of Killer Croc, but maybe a little bit more dragon-like. And then I would gauge the form that he fought Wendy in is not like a full dragon, but his state more of if you remember back when Irene was turning into a dragon during her fight with Urza, she attacked her, and then the next page she had this weird big muscular dragon form. She had a little stub tail and her hair kind of go out, and then the next page she was a full dragon. That's kind of what I can see with this, because though he is more dragon-like, he still has a very humanoid shape and still operates a lot like a human. I would guess that if Nebel became a full dragon, the 100% full complete, he would have wings. He would have a much different kind of shape to him. He would be attacking more as a dragon, or swiping claws and whatnot, and his tail, rather than going for kind of clawed punches and whatnot, more of gouging it. You know what I mean? But at that point, Wendy's Irene's power is being pushed back, and the presence of Irene shows up, and I've even used 1% of my magic. And now this is where I think things are getting a lot more interesting. Is she's saying that she's continue and enchant yourself with some of my power. I need you to we'll talk later, but I'll tell you what. I'll lend you my power, but I need you to tell me exactly what you want, exactly what you're trying to do here. When he explains, she wants to
person in front of her. Irene being Irene, and regardless of this being a seemingly not the fully sane Irene, but not the insane Irene, more of just kind of like a weird avatar of her. She's like, "Oh, you want me to kill him?" And he's like, "No, don't kill him. I just want to defeat him." And she's just like, I guess I could do that, but really, we can't really defeat him because like he's so far being dragonized that you can't really turn him back to normal. I'm gonna have to kill him. And she kind of takes control of Wendy's body, and she ends up unleashing like what I would still say a fraction of her power, knowing what we've seen of Irene. Even like the casual attacks from Irene, like even the casual attack of her completely altered the biome of around Mount Zonia, which if you look on the map, given like canonical sizes for the Yore and whatnot, is a couple 100 miles across of just blizzard weather, snow, and she just there we go. She just evaporated all of it, dispersed all the clouds, and completely changed the entire environment and climate. That's like a casual thing for Irene. I can kind of say like in terms of I had some in terms of potency, yeah, but still. Now we have Natsu flying over. He's gonna go try and figure out what had just happened, and with him, I'm very curious to know what he's gonna say about Nebel, because now, like, we see Nebel, he's actually okay, he's not dead, and with Irene, she was, like, messing with Wendy, she's saying, like, it was essentially a separation enchantment. It's the one that she was using against Mavis to try and draw out Fairy Heart, where it's more of an extraction of the power within them, more of, like, a magic, more, it's kind of like, I don't want to say a concept, maybe like a kind of like a style, like a forge of magic, maybe just like the shape of magic in your body, because it's not just like the magic total of your body, because as we know, like Fairy Heart was like a kind of like a specific thing within her. It wasn't a a spell that she had. It was almost like a magic entity, almost like some form of presence, I kind of want to say. But she's saying, essentially he's quote unquote dead as a wizard because he doesn't have magic right now. Oh, and he's like, oh, he can't magic anymore. But it's more like she just took all the magic presently within his body and just pulled it out of him. And from that, now he's suffering from magic deficiency disease, and he's just gonna be in a very like weakened and rattled state for right now. And she's like, he'll probably eventually his magic inside him will be restored like normal. Kind of like looking back Grand Magic Games, that Wendy had her magic completely nulled out by Obra, and then she was hospitalized for days, and then she was able to get back up. There was a neat little thing of like, Irene's like, if I only knew about this kind of magic 400 years ago, that being, her knowing about, or, her knowing some of these things, like the dragons that like halted the dragonification process within the Dragon Slayers, she knows that she would end up, able to prevent her from becoming a full dragon. For her, I feel like it probably would have been better if you just maybe didn't go batshit insane, which isn't her fault. I mean, she got tortured for years by literally the dude. She thought she was gonna marry and was having a kid with torture, and then had this whole like 400-year period of trying to get her body back. Finally got her body back, and it wasn't really the same. It was just a fake, and she just started to really snap. After that point, I don't blame her, but it's kind of weird in this very kind of, like I said, she's like not the insane psycho Irene, but she's not the sane Irene. It's kind of like a melding of both, because she's saying she's not really alive, because like Wendy's like, oh my god, I can't believe you're still technically alive, but she's not Irene's soul. She's like her persona. She's her personality. And the way that I think I would describe it best, because it's kind of a weird concept, it's like, well, what's the difference? I think it'd be like if Nineheart got out of prison, made a Historia of Wall. We know he can make a Historia of Wall. Now imagine the Historia of Wall ends up building a brand new body, new robot body, not a fake, not a copy. Builds a robot body, programs it entirely to be like himself, like everything about him inside of that, and then Nineheart undoes his Historia Wall disappears, but the new wall ends up, turning on and being normal. It's like, it's not the exact same. It's like a weird coding, like, existent of him. It's very strange, but I'm interested to see, like, where this goes, because the whole point of like, oh, when she was dying, she like enchanted her, part of her, kind of like her persona or personality inside of Wendy's body, and until she finds a new body, she's just gonna kind of like live within Wendy, almost like a genie is kind of how I see it more of this. Like, you need to be exact, precise in order to really get what you want out of her. If you say, hey, get rid of this person in front of me, some enemy, she's like, all right, and just erase them or something, some spell that just incinerates their entire being in front of you, or some other crazy OP thing that we know that she's probably capable of. I mean, really, even if it's like, well, what about once she knows? It's like, hey, I need to get rid of this bridge so like this guy can't come over or something. And it'd be like, okay, do Senma, and just meteor from deep space comes down. It's like, I technically did it. You just weren't precise enough. And then after this point, she's saying how she used up all of the kind of like residual magic, so she can't really use any of that power for Wendy anymore. But she does have her intelligence, her knowledge of enchantments, which is one of the things that I thought was how the power up was gonna be, but it's more of a combination of both. Both like, oh, well, Wendy has memories of her, but she also like stole part of Irene's magic while she was in the body. And at this point, he's like, but here's the thing. I will exist. I'm not going to intervene too much, unless it's necessary of what I exactly need to. And we know she can't get the power up, but she can get knowledge from Irene. Irene being a very, very powerful enchantress. High level, obviously, remember, high enchantress just off her base self, and then in her dragon form, she was a master enchantress. But she's saying how she's going to teach Wendy the separation enchantment that's going to pretty much, it's going to pull out the White Witch from Toka's body, which, very cool to see how they're being played into this. If you go back and look at when the White Witch is explaining the base reason of why Toka ended up coming Fairy Tail Guild, it wasn't just so Toka could gush over, well, who she thought was Natsu, but actually was happy. But in reality, it was because that she heard Wendy was here. She heard there was a powerful enchantress, and she saw her as capable of, undoing said enchantment on her. Which, if so, maybe one of the reasons why the White Witch was in like hiding was because she knew about Irene. Maybe because it would make sense of why she wouldn't want to go about her, because it's not, oh well, she's more powerful than. I don't see that as the case right now, just because we know that she's seemingly around Zeref's caliber. Whereas Irene was powerful, but we know that Zeref casually was more powerful than Irene. Much better, like, magic. He had a much higher grasp on the concepts of magic, and he just was all around stronger than she was. But it's the whole counter thing. It's the fact that you directly have an ability that threw me over. And I get that I could, probably defeat you in combat, but do I want to risk what would happen? Especially, you have other very powerful around you, including Zeref. Zeref always being a very dangerous individual to mess with in this world. The only people rather that we know that would be seemingly able to go up to Zeref and confident in a fight would be Acnologi and any of the dragon gods. But at this point, like, I'm very curious to know how Irene is going to play into the future, because it's not just, well, she's going to be able to give Wendy, like, knowledge of enchantments, which, is happily one of the things that I hoped and, theorized she'd be able to do, but also I'm wondering what the plans are for, somehow getting a new body. Where is that going to go? Because it's a very weird kind of like extra to the plot, which I don't know how it can really play into things right now, but it can easily add on to something in the future. Like, is a member of the guild? Is she gonna end up kind of go out and live a normal life? Is she gonna end up like having like this weird kind of post relationship with Urza, being able to be a mom because they won't be tied down by being mentally and horrifyingly insane? Who knows? One thing that I will note, I am very happy about, because once Nebel mentioned that he was going to drop 5th Generation Dragon Force, I was like, okay, he's going to be the exposition and showing us what 5th Generation Dragon Force is capable of. We're going to find out the rules and whatnot around the concept from him. And I was very excited to see that. I expected after that point that, we were going to see what it does and kind of, get a grasp on it, and then he was going to be defeated. Because, when you have a character who's pretty much is going to be like, hey, I'm gonna do exposition, I'm gonna give out information, I'm gonna be the display character, they usually only exist for that. After that point, it's like, well, I'm gonna probably get beaten and maybe die. And once it became the point of like he was seemingly becoming crazy, and Skulling and Mad Mole were just, dipping out and taking Kyrian, getting out of there and kind of abandoning him, I was like, things aren't looking good for him, because the only options are to either him, and then who knows what they're gonna do with him, or kill him. But now, as it is, he's been defeated, his guild has abandoned him, you have clearly Wendy does not want to kill him. The question is, what happens with Nebel? Now, Nebel can join. I'm very much pro the idea of Nebel joining up in the Fairy Tail crew. I'm happy about that. I really wanted Wraith. I like the idea of, having this ghost dragon boy being like a member of the Fairy Tail guild. Always be or something. It's seemingly kind of like Henry from Black Clover, but Nebel could actually be really fun. And something that I would note that I really love the idea of is, like, we see Nebel the first time him using 5th Generation Dragon Force, wanting to take out Wendy, wanting to beat her and eat her. But imagine later, like, we see, like, some form of, like, little mini character redemption arc where Nebel kind of learns more about like, having real allies instead of just being part of, like, a guild of crazy dragon wizards who want to go around, like, slaughtering and eating dragons, and including dragon slayers, which is little cannibalism, whether you regard them as more dragon side or more human side. But, having actual people to, get along with, maybe learning and becoming more of a person, and then using it instead, sacrificing, like, his being, his mind and whatnot, and his shape in order to protect them. I think that would be really cool. Like, maybe we get to a point when the Black Dragon Cavalry show up, and they're kind of getting pressed. Maybe, it's the main group, maybe it's Wendy, maybe it's somebody else in the Fairy Tail Guild, and he ends up just trading over his form in order to fight them back, which would be really cool after that point. I'm hoping so. I want Nebel to join. I don't know if he will. Don't really know what the plan would be to use his character otherwise. Like, what other reason would there be to leave him alive? It's not like Wendy hasn't killed before. I mean, she killed the shit out of Easel back in the Tartarus arc, threw that big ass like gust of wind through him, and then he died out and had to go. He still had to go, like, he went back to Hell's Core and he was gonna get a new body, but really to do that you have to kill the individual. But it's still killing them, but they have a way to rebuild. And after Hell's Core, like he said, so Wendy's killing of him led to eradication. So other than that, I really appreciate if you guys would comment below. Tell me your thoughts there about all this. Like, where do you think this guy's kind of going to go? Where's the Irene kind of bit? I very much want to see how Wendy plays into this big role with the White Witch, because I like that she has, like, plans for Natsu, and she really this older potential rival of Zareth. How she's, like, tying into the Dragon Gods, but Natsu's is more of towards Ignia instead of the White Witch, whereas Wendy might end up seeing the main, like, adversary for her, which is, again, a really interesting twist of it not being the main character and not being the the female lead, it being the little enchantress that she was worried about and had to go to the Fairy Tail Guild in the first place to investigate. But anyway, other than that, like I said, comment below, thumbs up video from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate everybody subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.